There's something quietly enchanting about the British countryside. It's not loud or flashy, it doesn't need to be. It's the sort of place where mysteries live tucked between mossy stones and secrets are whispered on the wind. And in Beatrix Potter's charming world, even something as mundane as a missing handkerchief can lead a curious child straight into the heart of enchantment. The tale of Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle begins with just such a moment. A child's everyday problem that opens the door to a not-so-everyday adventure. It's the kind of story that feels like it was told to you by your grandmother as she tucked you in, gentle, magical, and tinged with that peculiar English fondness for domestic chores and small woodland creatures in bonnets. But don't be fooled by the doilies and starch. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle might look like your great-aunt's hedgehog-shaped teapot, but there's more to her than starch and pins. Let's follow Lucie, a young girl with a missing pocket handkerchief, as she stumbles into one of Potter's most beloved tales, and finds herself deep in a world that blends fantasy, housekeeping, and just a hint of whimsy. Meet Lucie, the girl with a laundry problem. Lucie is a small girl with big eyes and a healthy amount of curiosity, the sort of child who wears pinafores and probably smells faintly of lavender and mud. She lives somewhere near the Lake District, a place Potter knew and loved. Lucie, like many children of the time, isn't afraid of the outdoors. She roams the hills and hedgerows with a natural comfort, poking around for missing items and daydreams. One day, Lucie realizes that she's lost a few things, specifically 3 handkerchiefs and a pinafore. Now, in today's world, losing laundry might result in a quick trip to the local supermarket. But in Potter's world, it's a serious matter, especially for a child with a strong sense of tidiness. So Lucie does what any sensible child would do in a storybook. She heads off across the fields in search of her lost belongings. She climbs a hill, one called Catbells, an actual place, and doesn't that name already sound like a fairy tale? And begins to search. But what Lucie finds is more than laundry. It's a world hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. The mysterious door in the hill. At first, it's just another hillside, a stretch of turf that rolls gently beneath the Cumbrian sky. But Lucie notices something odd, a tiny door set into the side of the hill. And if there's one thing storybook children never do, it's ignore tiny doors in unusual places. This door isn't made of glitter or gold. It's a little wooden one, worn smooth and slightly crooked. But to a child like Lucie, and to the reader, it's every bit as magical as anything from Narnia or Wonderland. She knocks, of course, and when the door creaks open, she finds herself face to face with the most peculiar sight she's ever seen. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle is no ordinary washerwoman. She's a tiny creature, dressed in a print gown and striped petticoat, her head wrapped in a clean white cap. Her hands are tucked into a pair of miniature sleeves, and she stands by a boiling kettle, humming as she works. But here's the part that makes Lucie and the reader pause. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle is a hedgehog, a literal hedgehog, with a bonnet, who does laundry, and she's doing it brilliantly. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle's Laundry Wonderland. Once Lucie gets over the initial shock, she does what most polite British children do when faced with the impossible. She accepts it and asks how she can help. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle, for her part, takes Lucie's presence in stride. She introduces herself with a no-nonsense warmth, and soon, Lucie is inside the cozy little home beneath the hill, marveling at the neatness of it all. There's something deeply satisfying about the way Potter describes this space. Everything is miniature and perfectly kept. Neat rows of freshly washed clothes, copper kettles, bubbling pots, and the gentle rhythm of work. It's the kind of place where the scent of soap hangs in the air, and everything has a purpose. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle moves with the practiced grace of someone who takes pride in her work, and Lucie follows along, fascinated. And here's where the story deepens into something quietly magical. The clothes Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle is washing aren't just Lucie's. There are tiny garments belonging to squirrels, vests for robins, aprons for mice, and stockings for kittens. The animals of the countryside, it seems, all rely on Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle for their laundering needs. It's a detail that turns the domestic into the fantastical. There's something irresistibly charming about the idea that woodland creatures need fresh clothes too, and that someone has taken up the mantle of keeping their linen spotless. ironing, folding, and animal names galore. As Lucie helps Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle fold, iron, and sort the laundry, we meet the owners of these clothes by name, even if they don't appear in person. There's Mr. Robin's red waistcoat, Peter Rabbit's blue jacket, yes, that Peter Rabbit, and Tabby Kitten's pocket handkerchiefs. For readers familiar with Potter's universe, this is a delightful cross-reference, a gentle nod to her other stories, connecting the dots of her fictional world. For newcomers, it's an invitation to dive deeper. Lucie is caught up in the wonder of it all. There's something magical about seeing the familiar made strange, watching clothes meant for animals handled with care, folded like any humans, and bundled into tidy piles. The scene is simultaneously quaint and whimsical, rooted in the very English idea that tidiness is next to godliness, even if you're a hedgehog. And Potter doesn't rush this. She lingers on the smells, the sounds, the simple satisfaction of clean linen and warm steam. There's a sensory richness to these scenes that makes you want to curl up next to the fire with a fresh towel and a pot of tea. Deliveries and discoveries. Once the washing is done, Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle and Lucie pack up the laundry into a tidy bundle and set off up the hill to deliver the clean clothes. What follows is a sort of magical delivery route, as they visit the homes of the various animal owners, leaving bundles at burrows and under hedges. Though the animals remain off-stage, their presence is felt in every stitch and button. It's as if Potter wants us to imagine their lives continuing just out of sight, a bustling animal society running parallel to the human one. Lucie is enchanted. Each stop adds to her sense of awe, and by the time they've finished their route, she's walking a little lighter, as if she's part of something ancient and secret. It's this sense of being let in on a magical secret that makes the story so powerful. Lucie has crossed into a world most people never see, and she's treated not just as a guest, but a helper, a fellow keeper of the domestic arts. The big reveal, hedgehog or housekeeper. But all good stories must wind down, and eventually, Lucie finds herself back at Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle's door. She thanks her for the adventure, retrieves her missing pinafore and handkerchiefs, and prepares to leave. But just before she does, Potter pulls off her narrative sleight of hand, the kind of soft twist that leaves both Lucie and the reader blinking in surprise. As Lucie turns to wave goodbye, she sees something strange. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle isn't a little washerwoman in a starched cap anymore. She's just a hedgehog. A regular, four-legged, spiny hedgehog. No bonnet. No petticoats. No polite words. Lucie, stunned, blinks. Did she imagine it all? Was the washerwoman real? Or was it simply a child's imaginative daydream brought on by the hills, the sun, and the scent of lavender? But here's the clever part. Potter doesn't answer. She leaves it to us. Maybe Lucie imagined it. Or maybe, just maybe, there's a little washerwoman hedgehog living in a hillside burrow, and Lucie was lucky enough to meet her. Final thoughts. Magic in the mundane. The tale of Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle is one of Potter's gentlest and most quietly magical stories. Unlike the danger and mischief of Peter Rabbit or the suspense of Jemima Puddleduck's near roasting, this tale is rooted in kindness, warmth, and the transformative power of simple, everyday tasks. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle isn't a hero in the traditional sense. She doesn't fight monsters or win battles. But she does something just as important. She keeps things clean, orderly, and lovingly tended. In a world that often overlooks domestic labor, Potter elevates it to something magical. There's a kind of reverence in her storytelling, a belief that even the smallest tasks, done with care, have great value. Lucie's adventure is a gentle reminder to look closely at the world around us, to find wonder in the ordinary, and to believe, at least a little, in the possibility of magic hiding in hillsides and handkerchiefs. Potter's language is soft and precise, her humor wry but kind. She treats her readers, young and old, as trusted companions on the journey. In the end, Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle may disappear back into the hill, leaving nothing behind but a wriggling hedgehog and the scent of starch. But the memory of her, and the warmth she brought to one curious little girl, lingers like the scent of clean laundry on a breeze. So next time you lose a sock or a tea towel, don't be too quick to blame the washing machine. Perhaps, somewhere under a hill, there's a tiny washerwoman gathering it up, tidying, folding, and keeping the world in quiet, careful order.